Peter, one of the great knocks on religion in general is that they are also contradictory to each other. They all certainly can't be right, and no two can be totally right. And with the attitude that way, then you go to the next step, well, none of them are probably right, because on the other hand, we have in the modern world a lot of tension, and a lot of people are trying to find the least common denominator in which all religions are part of the same thing. So there's the effort laudatory to limit or eliminate violence between religions, which is very serious in today's world. And so the fundamental question is, from a Christian point of view, which it seems to make very strong statements that it is the only way, can you be a universalist in thinking that other religions worship the same God that you do in your Christian religion?
Well, obviously not all of the major world religions involve worshiping any God at all. And Confucianism or most forms of Buddhism, for example. In fact, I would say that only 3 religions clearly involve worshiping a God, and that's Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and they are historically very closely related. A lot, and surely it is the God of the Jews that's worshipped in both Christianity and Islam. And Islam certainly recognizes this in calling Jews and Christians people of the book. What is the word Allah but Arabic for God, after all? I don't think we should treat it as a proper name like Yahweh. But so, yeah, I would take it as trivially right to say that those 3 religions worship the same God. I've seen, Christians say things like, well, our God was incarnate in Jesus Christ and theirs wasn't, but that's like saying that, well, Malcolm Muggeridge wrote this book according to which Mother Teresa was the most wonderful woman who ever lived, and Christopher Hitchens wrote a book according to which she was a charlatan. So therefore they weren't writing about the same woman. I mean, just because 2 religions make different statements about God doesn't mean that they're not talking about the same being. That is, provided there is a God at all, certainly they're both talking about him. Of course, that's not to say that the religions are consistent. They're saying inconsistent things about God, all right. But they certainly are saying inconsistent things about the same being. Of course, if there isn't a God, the question doesnn't really come up because there isn't any. It would be like asking whether this peasant who thinks that a witch blighted his milk and that peasant who thinks that a witch blighted his milk think that the same witch did it. But Jews, Christians, Muslims all think that there is a God. And if they're thinking it all clearly, they'll say, of course, there's just this one being, and we're making inconsistent claims about what he wants us to do and what he's done in history.
Yeah, so the fact that the Christian religion has Jesus, or part of the Trinity, there's a Trinity. Muslims have 99 names for God. Israel is, Shema Yisrael, and Elohe Echad is one, just pure one. Those are claims about the God, but it's the same God. You have no problem with that. Let's go one step further, though, because in Hinduism, it seems like there are many gods, maybe thousands of gods, but some would say that those are all sort of symbols and representations of the divine, which has a kind of unity.
It's very, very hard to talk about Hinduism because there are so many levels of understanding. That is, the difference in what's believed between a farmer and some village in India and what's believed by some highly educated Hindu is much more different, in my view, from what's believed by the Christian, and as they used to say in this country, on the Clapham omnibus, and the Lady Margaret Professor of Divinity.
Sure.
If you go to the most advanced versions of Hinduism, and you get Brahma, who's something like God, but you also have Brahman, which is beyond all being. And so it seems that this one God or this one being who is sort of like God, actually is really just an illusion, after all, just like everything else. So for that reason, too, it's very hard to say that it's a theistic religion. You can say it's a theistic religion at a certain level, and you have to distinguish both between levels of education of believers, because certainly a lot of Hindus in the street are polytheists, but there's a level of education at which all these gods are really just aspects of one God. But then there's a higher ontological level, or level of philosophical reflection, at which all individuality is an illusion, and even that God is lost.
So do you draw a fairly fine line between the Abrahamic religions of Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and other religions?
Yeah, those are the ones where you can clearly say that they're talking about God. So you have Zoroastrians, for example, who say that there are two ontological centers. I would be inclined to say that is technically speaking an atheistic religion. They would be distressed to hear me say that, and I don't think the qualification, technically speaking, is going to be of much consequence. I would say that Spinoza is, technically speaking, an atheist, even though he loves the word God and applies it indiscriminately. But nevertheless, it's not, I think, the proper meaning of the word God. The proper meaning, I think, is the right to decide on the proper meaning belongs to the people who've been martyred in the name of God. I'll let them decide, but I'm pretty sure that what I'm claiming about the meaning, nobody would be martyred for Spinoza's God, for example.